this is the best ambassador from this country. Because this is an ambassador you can drink. Your ambassador in Paris, you cannot drink it. We export a very small part. The goal is export more.
Masrasha Yizengao, who is an agronomy manager at Awash Wine, who based at vineyard site, told OBN that through modern technology transfer, Awash Wine is increasing its product and productivity by prioritizing quality at all costs possible. He puts the difference between drip and furrow irrigation as follows. He reiterated that modern and computerized irrigation is being employed.
Yeah, this one is one of our irrigation method, which is surface irrigation, and we give for each plant with a specific water, and there is no loose. We plant direct on root zone. We irrigate direct root zone. Each emitter have 1.6 liter per hour. It's dropped per hour, and it's computerized. What we give, for example, per hectare, we have given 100 meter cube. This per hectare, we know the population each hectare. We have 3,333 plants on each hectare, and we have 2 emitter for one plant. We feed with 2 emitter for one plant. For example, we give 2 emitter. That means every 50 centimeter we have emitter. This emitter, if we irrigate for 10 hours, for example, each emitter will be 60 liter per day. That means for one plant we will give 32 liter maximum for 35 liter. So it's precise, and there is no water loss in this system, and its big advantage is using water efficiently, properly and efficiently.
What about the old one?
When we come to the old one, we feed this with labor. This one is not labor intensive.
You do the canal.
Yeah, with a canal. There is a ditch inside the ditch, tertiary in the ditch, and it's not it's quantitable.
It's not water efficient.
Yeah, it's erodible. The soil, for the soil, it's affected by the soil will be affected.
This one it's a kind of rain pouring.
Yeah, rain pouring. There is no eroding, and we give with the same drip line fertigation also.
And it's a kind of computerized. You have said.
Yes,
right?
computerized.
You manage it by computer.
Exactly. For example, if I
you do them in the on and off by computer, you mean?
Yes, by computer. There is a board system board in a pump house. We give plan. We have a plan. We have a group. Each block have group. On that group, we give the quantity. We multiply per hectare the amount with meter cube. We give the water precisely. We don't give like furrow irrigation. Furrow irrigation, it's difficult to compare furrow irrigation in the drip because it's so gap. It's a big gap between this. Because furrow
irrigation is
flooded.
System,
yeah,
right?
it's flooded. It's not manageable easily, and it's eroded. The soil will be eroded, and the weeds have high weed growing. When we come to here, the weed is growing only on the dripper line. There is no weed, as you see in the middle. There is no weed. It's manageable, and for worker life also, it's easy.
It's easy.
Yeah. So there is no ring. There is no wide irrigation.
For example, this is a young fruit, right?
Yes, exactly.
For how many? How many months should we wait to have matured fruit? You mean?
Okay. Now this one, we will harvest at the end of April. April end, we will harvest this one. We was pruned here last.
This one is a red wine, right?
Red wine. We have 80 hectares.
You brought it from South Africa.
South Africa, yeah. We bring from South Africa. Here is 5 variety, which is Syrah, Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, Petit Syrah, and Ruby Cabernet. But out of these 5 variety, 70% of the land is occupied by Syrah, which is qualitative variety. It's a French variety. We bring from South Africa, like the rootstock, and it's we made from this red gabata.
For Amde is an agronomist, and she noted that alongside line of having quality products, a company keenly works on its employees' satisfaction. She added working for Awash Wine is a blessing. She further explained everybody feels home during its stay at the company. Esther, who is a task assessor for her part, said what she owes from the company is by far way that what she provides for the company. The company always strives for a betterment of its employees, unlike other companies.
ራሴን ችዬ ለመኖር ከምን በላይ ቤቴን ቤተሰቤን እንዳስተዳደር ረድቶኛል።
The existence of this company plays a great role in my life. It made me self-sufficient and never ask others for help. I lead my life with the income I generate from here. The organization gives priority to its workers, which is uncommon in other companies. Workers get extra incomes apart from their monthly salary and also safety clauses.
Awash Wine has a strong commitment to support the community to address some of their basic social needs in line with the Sustainable Development Goal.
My name is Ganna Jimbi. I am Community Development Manager in Awash Wine Farm. As far as community development is concerned, our main focus is 3 areas. That's education, health, that means safety and health, and agriculture. As well as so on these 3 areas we try our best to help the sustainable development of our societies in the local, especially the local communities, because why we focus on this area is that as a corporate social responsibility, the company have its own accountability, and also there is a legal framework that make the company to do these activities. Related to this health and the safety, we did for the local community around more than 4 or 5 projects. The first one is that to capacitate the local health system, to have healthy workers and to have healthy neighboring community in our surrounding. We construct with more than 1 million a health post for this local community at Dole areas, because we have 3 villages surrounding our farm. Among that, Dole is the biggest village, and we have our based on our livelihood programs priority. We give priority for the low villages that have a lot of populations. Based on this, we built within 1.6 million one health post for these local communities, and again, as a part of this health, we provide them pure drinking water for these local communities, for all the Dole communities, as well as for the Awash people who are living in Awash village, Harar camp, and for the Okoro. And in addition to this clinic with the water, we provide them around 9 water taps, including at a place where clinic, schools, and everywhere in the Dole.
Welcome. This is Awash Wine Share Company. This is one of the factory operating in Addis at Lideta branch. This is operating as the head office for the factory. So to show you the process how we made the wines, we harvested. Hopefully you have seen the harvest on the farm, which is 188 kilometers away from here to east to west of Addis. So that once the harvest comes, so there is a preparation, because when the harvest comes, it's in a bunch. It's not only the berries that they come here, but it's in a bunch that we receive the grape. So once we receive the grape, behind this wall there is a conveyor, which is the purpose of the conveyor is just to feed this hopper. This is, we call it D-stemmer crusher. Why we call it D-stemmer crusher? Because it destems, that means it detaches the berries from the stem. At the same time, it crushes the berries, because the berries are ripe and tender, so easily by
passing through the conveyor, it's crushed. So this machine will separate the stem from the berries. The stem will go through this plastic pipe, and we call it stack, and it will be collected outside of this building. And the others, the juice, there is juice, there is a skin, and there is seeds from the berries will be collected through this. There is a pump underneath and through this pipe. So we call this technically a must. It's not a juice, but it's a must because there is juice, there is a skin, and there is seed inside this. So depending on the variety and the color of the grapes that we have received from the farm, we first decided what to do. For example, if it is a white grape, we have Chenin Blanc from the farm. If it is a white grape that we are producing, and if we aspire to produce white wine, we take this pipe, we'll show you later, directly into a pressing machine. That to separate these seeds and this skin from the juice. So we'll collect the pure juice. But if you're gonna do, if it is the grape is red grape, we would like to do either red wine or rose wine. So if you're gonna do red wine, that means we take the grape directly into a tank to undergo maceration, or what we call it color development. Why? If you peel a white and a red grape berry, if you peel them, both of them has a white flesh, a white part. The color is on the skin. So we don't need to separate the color, and so that we have to collect it in the tank, and it has to develop the color during a week to 10 days that we, depending on the type of the wine that we make, we macerate it. We call it maceration because that is taking the color or the phenols from the skin. But at the same time, it takes the phenols off and the tannin from the seed. That is why the main difference when we say red wines mostly are taken with heavy food, and white wines are veg, fish, and the lights, because this tannin, it will give it a bitterness. When I say to explain this in easily, I say that if you order a tea that is full-bodied and half tea, that you get light tea, and the difference between this tea is tannin. The type of tannin is different, but the same tannin. So it makes it a bit stronger in the mouth when it is the tea is full-bodied. So that once we collect the juice, we'll follow this line, and we will show and explain there. This is a pressing machine. It's a pneumatic press. Why pneumatic? Because in the past, a wine will be pressed mechanically, which makes the wine bitter. So this machine will press the juice or the grape gently. That gives it a better finish in the mouth for the wine, a delicate finish for the wine. So whenever we process a white wine, we pressed it here. It has its own controlled pressure, controlled time, you can control it. So that we pressed it here and we transferred it to a settling tank. Then later we will see it. Why we transfer to the settling tank? Because when you receive the grape from the farm, it's not clean. There is mud, that is obvious. There is chemicals in the farm from wherever, insects, because it's ripe, it's sugary. So you have to separate them out to ferment a clear wine, because this affects the final finish and this affects the cleanliness and the clarity of the wine. So for this, we chill the juice at low temperature. So when we say chill the juice, we call it settling. All the heavy mud, all the dead insects will settle down, so that after 24 hours, we'll separate the clear juice for fermentation. So this fermentation, to touch a bit of fermentation, fermentation means a sugar in the grape, that is fructose, will be, by the help of yeast, will be converted into alcohol. So that alcohol plus there are CO2, which escapes from the process, so that we'll have the wine. Before finishing that, if you're gonna do red wine, we'll bring the grape, all the bunch, all the seed, skin, and the juice into a collection tank. Here it will spend a week or more, depending on the color development, depending on what we need, the final product, it depends here, and we will pump it over because we will mix it to develop the color. So once we develop the color, again, this is a special pump that you see here. It will transfer this must into the pressing machine. Then we separate. It is half fermented, it has half color, so it will separate it from the skin. So you see a bag of pomace. We call it pomace. This is the seed and the skin, which we will transfer it to the farm for the compost. So it has a cost, but it's naturally we are composting, we are feeding the plant with its own return, because the seed and the skin will be returned back to the farm, transferred and composted for 3 to 6 months and be utilized as a fertilizer. So it completes its circle. This is the chilling facility that we chill. We control the temperature of the wine from the juice until it will be finalized into the wine. So that this is the facility that we control the temperature of the wines. So the pressed juice that comes here for chilling is the last night we have received a truck of grape. So in these 2 tanks there is juice, not fermented, but it's under settling. The temperature is low, below 10, so that it's going settling. So as we said, we settled here, and after we settled it here, after 24 hours, we transferred this into a fermentation tank. What you see here are the big tankers, are fermentation tankers. They are insulated and they have a system of heating and cooling. So why? During fermentation, it's an exothermic or heat generating process, so that the wine will increase its temperature. So that is unnecessary at times, because for the health of the yeast and to conserve the aroma of the wine, we don't need for the temperature to rise highly, so that to control that, these are also equipped with controlling the temperature of the process. So we ferment the wines at low temperature. We don't normally we make organic. We follow organic processes. We don't add any additives into the wines, so that we fermented here. It will take 2-3 weeks, depending on the process that you choose, so that after 2-3 weeks we have finally the wine. So to show you some of the process. This is a pure juice that's not fermented, very sweet. So that we have received last night, and it's waiting its transfer into a fermentation tank for this afternoon. So this is the fermentation tanker. So the wines are here. So today we transferred this juice into this tank, because it has the day before yesterday also the yeast is propagating, it starts the fermentation. So we transfer this juice into this tanker for fermentation, because the transfer capacity from the farm and the fermentation capacity are incompatible, so that we collect the week harvest into one tank. So this is the tank we collect for the fermentation. In the beginning of the pressing, first when we generate the juice, we add preservative only, bisulfite, and when the fermentation starts, we add yeast that fermented the sugar, the sucrose, the fructose into alcohol. So once it's fermented, it will take 2-3 weeks. Temperature controlled, acidity, pH, all the parameters will be monitored and controlled and adjusted, so that once this is completed, it will be racked, because when the fermentation, because we are habitual with the honey wine making. So in a honey wine, when it's fermented, there is a list. We call it ambulla. We call. So likewise, when this fermented, there is a list that is accumulated from at the bottom. So we rack the wine into another tank. So, but we racked means that doesn't mean that the list is totally out of the wine. So it will take another time. So it will take another time. It will take another process, because there is 2 fermentation process. One is alcoholic fermentation. The second is malolactic fermentation. Once we racked it, we filled it, and we let it to ferment naturally with malolactic fermentation. Malolactic fermentation is the first fermentation is a yeast fermentation, but malolactic fermentation is a bacterial fermentation. So with that, the support of bacteria, the malic acid, which is more harsher and stronger acid, and unstable acid, will be converted into a lactic acid, which is more or less stable. So this has a big impact when you put the wines into the bottle, because if it's not stable, then your wines in the bottle will change. So the malolactic fermentation naturally takes again 2-3 weeks. So once the malolactic fermentation finished, we transferred our wines into aging tank. That we will see later. There are a number of aging tankers where the wine will be stored, kept preserved and stored for the coming 6 months a minimum. Depending on the wine type we made, we age our wines from 6 months to a year. The minimum, that's depending on the market, depending on the type of brand that we are making, the minimum is 6 months, and we elongate into a year. Because when you do a wine, you'll have a different brand, you'll have a different quality. So there is a technique that is mixing or blending that we use in the wine making, so that when we stock a wine, the final finished wine will be stocked ready for packaging, will be stocked in these tankers. So, but for aging, we have 2 cellars. Normally, long-standing aging will be stored in another, we call it the new cellar. We will store it in the new cellar, and there is also a storage tank inside the existing cellar, which also has storage capacity. Let's see inside and we'll go out. Once the wine is aged, so aging means the wine will stabilize, the harshness of the wine will decrease because of the secondary fermentation, and the aging gives an improvement in the palate. We call it palate. When we call palate, this is a technical term what that gives you in the mouth, the character the wine gives you in the mouth. So once the aging is finished, so there is fining, there is protein in the process. So protein is susceptible for spoilage. So to avoid or to take out the protein from this process, and there are also, apart from protein, there are also particles that are small micro particles. So we find with natural products, we take out the protein and these particles, we treat them. We call it treatment. We treated it with to take out the proteins, and after that we start the filtration. So when you see the wine for a final filtration that I show you earlier, so the wine is clear in your eyes, but with time it will create deposit. So that means there are microparticles. It's wine ready, but there are microparticles that will change the flavor or the aroma of the product, the characteristics of the product with time, and that will settle out with time, which impacts the consumer at the end of the wine is fine, but which impacts the consumer at the end of the process. So to do this, these are all the filtration processes. First, we filter with these machines. This is a porous filter. Only bigger particles will be filtered with this. Then we filtered the wine with that membrane filter. That is a membrane filter that can be adjusted for its filtration size or porosity. So with that, we take out almost all the unnecessary particles from the wine, and finally, just to make sure that everything is conserved, so that because if the membrane is damaged, because service maintenance takes time, so to avoid that, we use this filter sheet. This sheet, after a couple of filtration, it's visible, it's here, it's easy, and after a couple of filtration, you take out the sheet and you change it. Every time you take out, whenever you control the pressure, and you take out. So it's easy, it's confirmed that the wine is clean and clear to be before sending into the packaging line. So once we filtered here, we conserve it, we put it here, we store it temporarily, and from this tank we transferred it into the packaging line, where the packaging line is in the upper floor that you will see later.
My name is Kader. I've studied food technology. Currently, I'm working as packaging manager. As plant manager and seller manager told you that all beneficiation process will finish on the seller activity. So here upstairs, we are bottling line. So currently here, as you have seen, we have one line. So at a time, we can produce one type of product. The line has a capacity nearly 4,500 bottles per hour. So currently we are working just a regular hour 8 to 6 p.m. So as we have done in the washer machine, we use wash bottle which is returned from market. So we wash it in the based on caustic soda, citric acid, and running time is for 15 minutes. So the bottle should be washed on the washer machine. The machine has a capacity nearly 6,500 bottles per hour. So before we start the production activity, we will check the bottle has free from any type of stress chemical, free from any odor, and free from any levels. So once QA or quality assurance department approves the bottle is clean, we start our bottling activity now. So once the bottle washing activity is finished, so we have trained line inspector assistants here. They are trained, they can pick a bottle every step of the line. So once the bottle finished, we fill it, then we are able to adjust the level. So as you have seen, it pass through on the packing line. And as you have seen, most of the time, all packaging materials except level, we imported from the Europeans, from France, Spain, that's bush, cork, and also capsule. Sometimes also a new bottle we imported from the foreign country or Europeans. So as you can see that at a time we produce one type of product. Currently we are producing Gudar, which is dry red wine. So most of the time we can produce Awash, Kabila, and also Gabata. At the time we can produce once per day. So the whole day we will produce, we are producing nearly 35,000 of bottles per day we can produce. At this line, we have nearly 65 general workers plus 11 to 12 machine operators, including 8 electricians and junior chemists. Here is the bottling line. Once we finish all this activity, we will transfer to full goods store. So the bottling line is like this. So thank you very much for your having.
Here we are assuring the process. So to assure the process, you have to follow the process, the parameter wise. So here we perform almost more than 6 parameters. That's we call physico-chemical analysis, which are used to determine and to control the process. Here in the process, we measure parameters such like amount of sulfur in wines, amount of sugar level in wines, and also the acidity, total acidity of the wine. So these are this parameter helps us to control the process and also take action for the correction purpose. So here for finished product, we perform physico-chemical analysis such as RS, residual sugar, amount of sulfur, free sulfur in wine, and total sulfur in wine. Also the acidity and the pH. And also another one is which is critical for the wine is VA and also alcohol. So these parameters will perform in 2 ways. Those are by instrumental methods for using direct reading as pH and alcohol, and also titration method by using chemicals, titrate and get the result depend on the titration endpoint.